Okay, so in this video I'm going to talk about bar chords. Now, bar chords are the natural progression for the open position chords, so like your normal G, A, D, E minor, that sort of thing. They're called the open position chords. So there are two kinds of bar chords. There are the E string root bar chords and the A string root bar chords. Now, bar chords are so handy, so useful, because once you learn bar chords and are able to play them confidently, you will know both a major and a minor chord for every single note on two different strings. So for each note, you will be able to play 4 different chords for it. How sick is that? On top of the open position chords that you will already know. A bar chord it's still a chord, however, you're doing what we call barring a fret. So to make a bar, take your first finger and just pick a fret. Here, for example, I'll pick the 3rd fret. So what you're going to do is just grab your first finger and then place your finger over the 3rd fret of all 6 strings. Just like that. Now, this will take some practice for you to be able to get this down confidently, because for a beginner or your first time doing bar chords, this is going to put a lot of strain on your hand. It does take a while for your hand to gain the strength to be able to do this confidently with ease. If you have an electric guitar, it's a bit easier if you have an electric guitar because the string tension is a lot lower than an acoustic. On an acoustic, it's a bit harder. But when you're first practicing as well, what I would suggest is go closer towards the 12th fret. Now, if you got fat fingers like me, barring closer to the 12th fret, it's a bit hard because my finger is like in some parts wider than the actual fret. So if you've got bigger fingers, probably go to like the 9th fret and just try and practice at the 9th fret. Down here closer to the 12th fret, the 12th fret is the direct middle point between the nut and the bridge. So it's got the lowest amount of string tension at the 12th fret. Same as acoustic guitar as well. It'll be easier when you go down this part of the fretboard. So because the string tension is lowest down here, that means it'll be easier to bar for you to practice your barring. Now, what I would suggest for you to practice your barring is start on the 9th fret or the 10th fret, and then just try and practice barring that first, and then once you can get the whole 10th fret down and every note is ringing out really nicely, there's no buzzing or anything, then take it back to the 9th fret, and then the 8th fret, then the 7th fret, and so on until you can bar the 1st fret. Because barring the 1st fret, that's the hardest place to bar, because that's where the string tension is the highest on the guitar. That's why the F chord, a lot of people don't like playing the full F bar chord because it is the hardest sort of bar chord to play because the string tension is the highest. So you need to know how to bar before you try and do the actual full bar chord. So if you can't do a bar shape, there's no point in trying to chuck a chord over it. Once you can confidently make the bar shape, now I'll show you how to put chords over it. Okay, so let's pick the 5th fret for the first chord shape. So these are the E string root bar chords, okay? So we'll start off with the E string root major bar chord shape. So I've got my first finger barring the 5th fret. So what you want to do is you want to take your 3rd finger, so your ring finger, put it on the 7th fret of the A string. Again, so I'm barring the whole 5th fret. 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the A string. Then you're going to get your 4th finger and you're going to put that on the 7th fret of the D string. And you're going to get your second finger, your second finger, and then you're going to put that on the 6th fret of the G string. And then you're going to strum all 6 strings. this is the E string root major bar chord shape, okay? So this shape is movable, okay? So if I take it down to the 3rd fret, so I bar the whole 3rd fret, my second finger, my 3rd and 4th finger are on the 5th fret of the A and the D string, and then my second finger is on the 4th fret of the G string. Now this chord, this is a G major chord, okay? Same as this chord. Same as the normal G major chord. This is a G major chord as well. Because the root note, this note, the 3rd fret, this note is G. So, because that is the root note, the lowest note in this chord, that makes this chord a G major chord, okay? And the chord that we just played before on the 5th fret, where we barred the 5th fret, this is an A major chord, same as this chord. That and this are both A major chords, okay? So, you know, if you want to play the dreaded F chord, you just bar on the 1st fret. If I want to play a B major chord, that's right here on the 7th fret. A D major chord, that's up here on the 10th fret. That's a D, and this is a D major as well. Your normal open position D. This is a D as well. Okay, so now we'll go over the E string root minor bar chord shape. So we'll take the 5th fret as an example. Okay, so it's essentially the same shape as before, but we just don't play our 2nd finger. Okay, we don't fret our 2nd finger. So I'm barring the 5th fret, and then I've got my 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the A, and then I've got my 4th finger on the 7th fret of the D. That's it. I'm not fretting with my 2nd finger at all. Now, so if this root note is A, and this is a minor bar chord shape, that means this chord is an A minor chord. Same as the A minor open position shape. This is an A minor as well. Same as if we play it on the 3rd fret, this is a G minor now. If I were to play it up on the 12th fret, E minor. Okay, so now I'll go over the A string root major and minor shapes. So I'll do the A string root minor shape bar chord first. So, again, so we want to bar, we're not going to bar all 6 strings now. We're only going to bar the first 5 strings, okay? And what we're going to do when we bar is we're just going to slightly touch the low E string. Not enough to fret it, just enough to mute it. See how that's not ringing out? See how that's muted? So I can strum all 6 strings. The low E string is muted. It doesn't make any sound. Okay? So that's what we want to do with the A string root bar chord shape, is we want to mute the low E string, okay? We're not going to play that string. That means that all of the root notes, they're found on the A string. Okay, so if I bar the 5th fret, but it's an A string root bar chord shape, this, see if I put, so this is a A string root minor bar chord shape. So barring the 5th fret, muting the low E string, you're going to get your 2nd finger and put it on the 7th fret of the D string, your 4th finger on the 7th fret of the G string, and your 2nd finger on the 6th fret of the B string. Now, because this note right here, the 5th fret on the A string, that note is D, okay? So the root note of this chord is D, and this is the A string root minor bar chord shape, therefore this chord is a D minor. Okay, again, this shape is movable. So if I take it down to the 3rd fret, this is a C minor chord because this root note right here is a C. C minor, A sharp minor, E minor, F sharp minor, G minor, G sharp minor, etc. Okay? Okay, so the A string root major shape, there are two ways to play this, okay? So the technically correct way to play it is we'll come down to the 5th fret. So we'll bar the 5th fret again, muting that low E string. So the technically correct way to play it is you're going to grab your 2nd finger and put that on the 7th fret of the D string. You're going to grab your 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the G string, and then you grab your 4th finger on the 7th fret of the B string. Now again, because this is the major A string root major bar chord shape, this chord is a D major. Okay? And you're going to strum all 6 strings. Now, that way to play the bar chord is shit, okay? Nobody actually plays it like this because it's unnecessarily hard. So the way that people actually play the A string root major shapes is you're actually not even barring this whole fret, okay? So this is the way that people actually play it. So you're going to grab the root note, so on the 5th fret here, you're going to grab the root note, and then same as before, you're just going to slightly touch the low E string so that it doesn't play. You're going to get your 1st finger on the 5th fret here. Then what you're going to do is you're going to grab your 3rd finger and you're going to bar the 7th fret of the D, G, and B strings. Now, what you're going to do with the high E string is you're actually going to mute this string, okay? So you're only actually playing 4 strings. Okay, now what you need to do, this will take a lot of practice. What you need to do is when you bar the 7th fret of the G, the D, G, and B strings, is you sort of need to like lift your finger up a bit. Can you guys see that? See how my finger, it's like bent? You don't want it to lay it flat like that so that you'll actually fret the high E string. Once you fret these 3 strings, you want to lift your finger up enough to mute the high E string, okay? This will take a lot of practice, but like a helpful tip that I can give you is always raise this part of your finger higher than you think you should. I struggled for a long time to play this chord like this because I could never mute the high E string, but what I realized is you always want to lift this part of your finger up further than you think you should. That's what really helps me to be able to play this chord properly, or at least this way. Again, so root note of this chord is D. So this is a D major chord, same as that. That's a D chord. This is a D chord. This is a D chord. Same as if we play it up on the 3rd fret. This is a C. This is a C. And this is also a C. Bar chords give a guitarist so much more freedom than just the normal open position chords. Mainly because it gives you a lot more variation and it allows for you to play different flavors of the same chord. Like I said before, so this is a C major. That's a C major. This is a C major. This is a C major. If I wanted to play D minor. This is D minor. This is D minor. This is D minor. It gives you so much more variety and a lot of different flavors to the same chords. Another interesting thing about bar chords is a lot of people when they teach bar chords, they call them the A minor shape, or the A shape, and the E minor or E major shape. Because think about it, when you play a bar chord, let's take F for example. Right, so we've got the F shape. If I just move this back 1 fret, I've got the E major shape. And it's just that the nut is acting as my finger here. See? So I've got E major, and then if I just scooch that up 1 fret and then chuck a bar over it, I've got an F major shape. Same as if I go A sharp minor, and I just move that back 1 fret, you've got A minor, and just the nut is acting as the bar here. And for A major, if I just move that up 1 fret and I've got A sharp major, with the A major shape, the nut is just acting as the bar. It's the same shape. You can just move it up. You can just move that shape, same shape, up or down the neck. That for me was a really interesting revelation when I was first learning bar chord. Like, my mind was genuinely blown. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please like the video, subscribe, ring that bell. My name is Seth Webster. I appreciate you all for watching. I'll see you around.